Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ahmaduhu wa salli ala Rasulil Kareem. You know, there is a big problem. And it relates back to the same thing. لَيُغَيِّرَنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ, I will change the creation of Allah. And that is that the testosterone levels of the world, meaning the men in the world, لَيْسَ ذَكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, the male is not like the female. And one of the key ingredients that makes a male is his testosterone. And so testosterone levels are falling, and the boys are becoming sissy, and the boys, let alone, we want guys to be able to help their wives in the house with, different ways, but the problem is they're not even men, right? And then we're trying to make them into females, and so they become asexual. And so I have so many wives complain about their husbands not having a high libido compared to them. It leads to a big number of problems in a marriage because of having a low sex drive, especially among men. Now, having said this, these are important things, because if we want the ummah to rise, when you look at the description of the army of the Mahdi and how the Prophet ﷺ described how they will be riding horses and fighting in the horses, those are people with high testosterone levels, okay? This is the thing, is that the men of today have low testosterone, and so we have to, as Muslims, we can get ahead. We can get ahead if we understand the problem. So let me show you here. Our testosterone levels are going down. That means our manhood is going down. Studies show that men's testosterone levels have been declining for decades. The most prominent, a 2007 study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism revealed substantial drop in U.S. men's testosterone levels since 1980s, with the average levels declining for about 1% per year. Well, if you lose all your testosterone, you end up becoming what? You end up becoming asexual. You're not into, and so then, the wives are wondering, why is my husband like porn instead of me? Well, because he has a low testosterone level. And you're more in control of, your situation at that level. I won't go into that right now, but I do want to introduce you to this book written by Christina Hoff Sommers, who writes a book, and she used to be one of the prominent members of the feminist movement, okay? The war against boys, okay? There's a war against boys, especially in the educational system. But today, instead of talking about the problem, the only thing I'll say is, yes, testosterone levels are going down. And number two, the entertainment industry, the industry that's out there, what do? You see all these women thriving in school, going to colleges, and brothers, they can't hardly make it, right? Because they're not motivated. Why? Because they don't have testosterone. I'm going to show you the effects of having a lot of testosterone. Having the right amounts of testosterone will have a positive effect. And so the mothers and the men themselves need to, women control men in so many ways. They can control the psyche of their men just by their diet. Just by their diet, they can control how they look and how they feel and how they'll behave. Right? And so anyway, these programs, syndicated programs like the Bill Cosby Show, the Simpsons, what do? They always show, the TV programs always show the boys being dumb and the girls being smart. Okay, so this has been a long war that has been being waged upon the male gender. And we have to understand that when the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Dajjal will attract the women, one of the reasons is that men will no longer be men. So if you want to be men and you want to have a strong, really, relationship even with your wife or your wife-to-be, then you have to know what I'm going to share with you, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing about testosterone is that they can be in higher levels, lower levels, and they're all within normal range. So anything between like 300 to 900, 800 is considered normal, even though functionally it may be very different. So somebody who's at the 300 level, still it's normal, but he's still going to have side effects. He's going to feel fatigue, for example. He's going to have low libido and not wanting to have intimacy with his wife. Somebody at that level is not going to be as ambitious, for example. So, you know, this is the normal testosterone levels. Somebody can be at 300, somebody can be at 1,000. That's all within the normal range. But that is not, that's the natural range, but that is the natural range now, after the testosterone's been falling and falling and falling and falling. And so many people are in that level that they have to include it in the normal level. I want to share with you one thing a Sheikh said. He said, you know, when you read the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ regarding the sperm and how Aisha used to, you know, move it from the clothes with her fingers, right? She used to scrape it off because it was not liquid. One of the scholars said, you know, men today, the sperm comes out, it's liquid. It's all liquid. But in the time of Aisha, she had to scrape it off, right? So, there was a lot more testosterone. Imagine the testosterone of Khalid bin Walid. Or imagine the testosterone of Omar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. So, you know, normal testosterone levels nowadays are between 304 to 915. Okay? And so, you know, the variation, for example, within sodium, okay? Let me show you here. The variation within sodium is 9% variation. The testosterone level variation is 410%. So this also is one of those things that, you know, it's not like this is science, this is normal. No, it's just that they're okay with you being less, not having the right amount of testosterone. And maybe it's been purposely done, maybe it's not been purposely done. But, you know, testosterone should be within a 10% range, 15% range, 20% range. Okay, 100% range, maybe 300, 410% variation. So they want to keep men as sissies, it seems to me. You know, so that's the variation, 9% versus 400%. And then, of course, there are studies that show people that have testosterone, you know, it helps, they're better at working out, or working out gives them testosterone. They have more ambition. They're successful in life because they're more outspoken. They're not as docile. They're not as asexual. And there are all these studies that show this, okay? And so we, the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, cannot afford to be docile any further than we've already been docile. We cannot have a colonial mindset any more than what we already have been indoctrinated with. So, for example, here's a study, you know, testosterone risk, socioeconomic position in British men, exploring the causal directional relationship, basically. This is in social science and medicine. So basically, if you have a high testosterone, you're going to be more successful in your job. You're going to be more satisfied with your job. Okay? And so, that is, it has a profound effect. So now, you know, just to compare testosterone with cortisol. Cortisol is, you know, it's a survival mechanism, but testosterone is a reproductive mechanism, a competitive success mechanism. And so what it does, testosterone, you get more testosterone when you have less fat, when you have more muscle, and more muscle means more testosterone, less fat means more testosterone, and confidence and motivation, increase of well-being, competitiveness, etc., increases with more testosterone. So the drive to be strong, not to be weak, like the Prophet said, the stronger mu'min is better than the weaker mu'min. But killing your inner ego, so to say, or subduing your ego rather. But the ego is really strong. It's like a strong horse, but you need a strong person to ride the horse. So your nafs, your control over your nafs, you have to be strong over your nafs. But the Prophet was the ultimate, where it was the ultimate horse. Like he had the power of 40 men when it came to women. And then he had the ultimate nafs, to subdue his horse, subdue his ego, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, and so, of course, testosterone goes up. After birth, it goes up to the age of 18. Then after that, it kind of like levels out. Okay, we're going to talk more about that later. Women's preferences for men's with facial masculinity is strongest under. So basically, how a man's face looks is a part of attraction. So that includes the beard, even though they don't talk about it, but there are many studies on that. And physical masculinity may provide relevant information to potential mates and same-sex rivals, they say. So regarding male reproductive maturity, underlining health, etc., social status, one of the best studied sexual traits is facial masculinity. Okay, so one of the best studied sexual traits is facial masculinity. Okay, so I'll leave that at that. Okay. Women's preference for high testosterone faces. Okay, so in a wild, a struggling male's testosterone levels fall. Okay, what they mean, not wild. Okay, what it means when you're in survival mode. Okay, when you're sick, for example, your testosterone levels fall. When you're survival mode, okay, you cannot effectively find food. You cannot overcome sickness. You are more irritatable. You have a bad social life. Okay. Whereas if you have testosterone, you have more storage, more fat storage, but less fat. More long-term survival. What happens is low testosterone, leads to more fat, less muscle. Okay, low levels of low levels promote what? Low levels affect the fear. Okay, low levels affect, and you just avoid threats, and you call that wisdom, and you call that we're preaching with wisdom because we just want to avoid the threats. Whereas when you have high testosterone, what happens? You have less fat and more muscle gain. Okay, and now that we understand the cutting edge research into social behaviors, so there's all this research about how testosterone helps you in terms of your social life in your workplace, for example. This is even before anything else, before the male and the female. Regulation of male traits by testosterone, implications for evolution of vertebrate. And this is just different science articles. Sexual modulation of testosterone, insights for humans. And then social regulation of gene expression. And so they're looking at different studies of different animals and how they are affected by testosterone versus human beings and so on and so forth, and how that affects. So here you have, somebody who's fit, he's motivated and competitive, his confidence, positive mood, less fat, more muscle. The other person, he's submissive, less motivated. If you ever ask yourself, why am I less motivated? Why do I don't want to have intimacy with my wife? Check your testosterone levels. Check your weight level, because obesity is the biggest thing that stops, testosterone. More fat, less muscle. And this situation of our scholars. One of the scholars was telling me the other day, you're not considered a scholar unless you have a belly, right? So testosterone was first discovered in 1889, okay, and then it was injected into rats, and they saw how that changed their behavior, and it was first isolated. Do you know this word, isolation, that's been going around a lot nowadays? It was first isolated and named, right, in 1935. So, it was called testosterone, okay, and then what happened in the 1960s, in the 1950s and 60s, the pharmaceutical industry became more interested in new androgens and then in testosterone itself, okay. So in the 1960s, they started to study this really real strong. These studies revealed that testosterone is associated with heightened motivation for status, as well as increased frequency and intensity of behaviors and psychological state that increase the likelihood of achieving and maintaining status. Okay. Higher status with social hierarchies provides advantages to promote survival and reproduction, such as privileged access to limited resources, right? So the person who has more testosterone is going to dominate. It's going to be the alpha male. Now, of course, you have to remember, we're not looking at things with only one eye, this just one linear type information. We have to keep in mind that there is other aspects, right? So there's hypogonadism, right, which is low testosterone, and so that severely affects people, obviously, right? Anything below 350, and you can get checked out, while I'm discussing this and telling you that 3 out of 4 men have below 350. So if there are 10 Muslim brothers, 4 will have less than 350. So, that means that has a big effect, in terms of depression, in terms of relationships, in terms of intimacy with the wife, etc., etc. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of us. Please do read the comment section. Please subscribe to this channel as well as my other channel, and also, inshallah, join me to help Muslims and ourselves, and to talk about what herbs and how we can help ourselves to have more testosterone and have normal levels of testosterone, and all these different issues of the Jali system that we live in. Join my Telegram group channel that I have. I'll have the information in the comment section, in the description section of the channel. Okay, and so it's very, very important also that you go through everything. There's about 7-8 points, inshallah. Read through all of them, and then also make that your agenda to go through that, inshallah. So 4 out of 10 have below 350. And if you want to help me have a cup of coffee, you can also support me and my channel and the projects that I'm doing by paying for coffee. You can also see that in the description or the comment section, inshallah. So hypogonadism, which is low testosterone levels, leads to low libido, low fertility. You have ED problems, erectile dysfunction, and then even though the husband and wife are fighting about A, B, C, D, but really at the bottom of the issue, so many times it's actually the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about. It's very difficult to talk about. It is what? It is the issue that they're not having a physical relationship, and the wife feels he doesn't love me, and because if he loved me, he'd be having intimacy with me. Go on, and so on and so forth. So there's depression, anxiety, insomnia, irritability, fatigue, cognitive impairment. If couples need help, I'll have my email there. They can try to reach out to me, inshallah. And then again, low testosterone, versus normal testosterone, right? What is the depression, ratio, okay, and fatigue ratio, confusion, bewilderment versus normal levels, right? And then this is just another concentration, psychomotor speed, right? How these are lower. It's very important. I'll be giving some solutions, inshallah. So there's a dominance hierarchy that testosterone helps with. Now, who cares about social ranks? But inside the house, you want to feel like a man? Well, bring your testosterone levels to normal, because 4 out of 10 Muslims out there, they need this video. And the others need this video too, because I would want Muslims to be like the Sahaba, whose sperm didn't come out as liquid, but it came out something that needs to be scraped away, right? They had maruwa. They were men, right? So they did this experiment thing where you could say they gave people testosterone, I think it was for 16 weeks, 17 traders for 8 consecutive days, and then they looked at, these are like day traders, and then looking at the performance by having more testosterone. What happened? Those people who had high testosterone, okay, with more than 2 years experience, right, they ended up making 3 times more than the people that had low testosterone, according to one of the studies, right? They did another study of 16 weeks, right, in which they saw they couldn't do it, but they gave them this pill that completely reduced testosterone, okay, completely finished testosterone. What happened? Fat went up, muscle went down, bones went down. They had to ethically stop the experiment because things were getting really bad in these people that had no fat and had muscle and had strong bones. So what are the things that help with testosterone? Vitamin D, hint, hint, vitamin D. Zinc, hint, hint, magnesium. Okay. So you have the sun, you can have natural herbs, you have vitamin D, right? You're doing all that, singling out. You can have something that singles out inactive vitamin D, active vitamin D, right? You can have the pills, you can have the supplements, you can have the herbs, you can have the sun. Okay. The other thing is zinc. Zinc helps a lot with testosterone. Magnesium also helps, okay, with testosterone. So when you have vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, right, these are things that the wives can easily put into the food, or the husbands can easily get for themselves. Then they're herbs, like, now I don't know how to spell this, ashwagandha. Okay, the results were that there was a high level of testosterone after this study. Okay, ashwagandha, this leaf, it's the root of this leaf. Then there is others also. There's the fenugreek tree or plant, and you can look this up for more exact information, but this shows different things. Testosterone immediate declines rapidly following illness and injury. And that would probably be if you're pretending like, if you're acting like you're sick when you're not sick, right? So age increasing, does it reduce testosterone? No. And we know this from the Sahaba. They were like 60 years old. The Prophet was 40 years old when he was getting married again with the women and our mothers. Radiallahu anhunna ajma'in, and sallallahu alayhi wasallam. As the age increases, it doesn't really decrease your testosterone levels. Okay, that's a myth. Decline in T is predominant, meaning testosterone is predominantly related to obesity. It's obesity that really is the problem. Okay, so you have, people at the age of 37 who are decreasing their testosterone by 30% versus age people that are healthy, they decrease their testosterone only 10% because of obesity. Okay, so here's just different, if you decrease your weight, your blood levels increase in testosterone by plus 84, and if you do it through surgical means, which again could be problematic in other ways, increases it by 250. Okay, weight loss 9% versus 32%. So you have, that's also proportionate to that. So there's this thing called EGCG, which you can look into, which you can find in green tea. It can increase daily fat burn by 16%. Okay. And then, of course, lifestyle. After becoming a father, they say, your testosterone levels drop. Your sexual activity. After every sexual activity, there's a spike after, in the morning after. Good sleep, and also workout, which is not added here. Hormones and behavior. Do testosterone declines after transition to marriage and fatherhood relate to man's sexual behavior? Well, this is a study from Philippines that yes, it does, but I'm not sure. The morning after having intimacy, your testosterone levels go up. So you have to start having intimacy, and then your testosterone levels will go up, especially if you're adding supplements, you're working out, right? You're having a good sleep. And so this is a study that shows where the sexual activity took place and then the peaks of the testosterones after that. Okay. This thing, Tribulus, seems to be very good. Strong evidence it reduces ED. It does not increase testosterone, but it does help in ED. Okay. Strong evidence of lower ED, and lower ED and more libido. Okay. This spike the next morning does not apply to masturbation. Okay, testosterone and sleep. And you have good sleep, you'll have good testosterone. And of course, the biggest spike comes from working out with weights, specifically working out with weights. And so here's kind of like a, you can say, an overview. Dietarily, you take vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, supplements like ashwagandha, Greek, right? And then you have health-wise, body fat matters, your blood pressure matters, your your health matters, basically. It helps you socially, it helps you. Testosterone may benefit from sex 3 times per week, sleeping 8 hours per night, lifting weights. Okay. Consuming this amount of nuts. Nuts helps in ED also. And over here, I will also share with you some information as far as Brazilian nuts and testosterone, right? So testosterone in the male hormone, which controls all manly stuff like your muscle mass, fat distribution, facial and body hair, right? Your sex drive. Brazilian nuts contain a high concentration of mineral selenium, okay, which is said to naturally boost testosterone levels. So you eat Brazilian nuts, you eat other nuts, right? It will increase your testosterone levels. You also have this article in Forbes that talks about nuts in general, okay? And consuming this amount of nuts daily will help with erectile dysfunction. 12 signs of low testosterone, okay? And then I will be ending with this point. Low sex drive, difficulty with erection, low semen level, hair loss, fatigue, loss of muscle mass, increased body fat, decreased bone mass, mood changes, affected memory, smaller testicle size, low blood counts. Okay, so again, I want to encourage the Muslim brothers, and I want to encourage the wives to get the Muslim men in a higher level of testosterone, and this will be a very good way to help the Ummah come out of this Dajjali system, because the Dajjali system is made for you to have less testosterone. And so inshallah, we all want our brothers and all the Muslim husbands and all the Muslim fathers and Muslim brothers to have more testosterone at the higher level, even higher than like the Sahaba. So then with that, you add in all the skills. But you're not going to be motivated, you're not going to be ambitious, you're not going to be a go-getter if you keep not looking, if you don't look into this and deal with it. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all. And this is probably, and I have a very strong feeling for this is a subject for another time, one of the very strong magics that's been done on the Ummah is in regards to low testosterone levels, low sex drive, etc., intimacy with the wife, breaking the marriages, and all of that. So again, join my channel on Telegram, subscribe to this channel and my other channel, and also if you want to help me with a coffee, you can support me with that. And also if you could share this with other Muslim brothers and sisters so that they can, their husbands, their whoever can get on it and increase our testosterone. And also join my channel on Telegram. Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Take care.